Welcome to a full guide and overview to Project SkyShard. If you're a complete beginner, I'm going to go over all of the basics you need to know, but also some more useful tips and tricks for people who maybe are more familiar with the game. Now, I will mention this is still on the demo version, so if you are watching this in the future, things will hopefully look a little bit better visually. But when starting a game, you will notice that you get to pick a hero for SkyShard. Currently, there's only 3 heroes. It displays a little bit of info, but a hero basically just gives you a bit of direction in the early game, gives you a quest to go on. So if I go with Zap, for example, you'll be offered 2 quests here. Every hero has a set of quests and you just get offered 2 at random. So I think I'm going to start with this one. It is started with a crystal core, which is a specific unit. The first 3 crystals you buy give you an extra crystal, and you will see it appear in the left here. So now the game actually begins. SkyShard is an asynchronous Autobattler game, which means that we have just turns that we go through and we have as much time as we want. Now this on the left is your island. This is your area that you're gonna build on and that you're gonna use to compete in the game. In the top left you will see all of your stats that are relevant right now. So the hero that you pick, the amount of rounds that this game mode has, and ranked currently there is 16 rounds, the amount of hit points that you have, the amount of mana that you have, this is the resource that is used in this game, and the amount of wins that you have. It also shows the starting quest that you selected at the beginning and how far your progress is. In the bottom left you will see your inventory, so this is the crystal core that we got from selecting our starting quest, and to place anything on your island you kind of just drag it on there. And there it is, we have our crystal core. If you wonder how I zoom in, it's just using the mouse wheel and using the scroll wheel to drag as well. That way you can check the beautiful art that we have currently. And if you want more info, if you hover over any unit, it kind of shows a little bit of information, but if you click on it, you get the full UI. So as you can see, units have a bunch of like tags and stats. So I'm going to quickly explain the 4 tags that you see on top here. This is the tier. Units fall into 5 different tiers, from 1 to 5 obviously, which is associated just with how rare it is or how much it costs. All of these tags will become more obvious as we play and as I get to explain them more. Then we have the faction. The hero that we picked, Zap, is really good with nature factions, but you also have stuff like Tinker, Basic. Units just fall into one of these categories. Then you have the role, so this is just a structure on your island. You also have town units, you have weapons, and then you have the type, so also kind of what its purpose is. This is mainly for utility. You also have offensive and defensive units, but again, don't focus too much right now on learning all of these tags and what they all are. It will become way more apparent and easy to understand them as we play the game. Then on the left here you will have some stats. This just has health, 30 health, and as you can see it has a 2x2 space on the grid. So this is your island grid and everything basically just holds space on that. Units cannot overlap, so that is the positioning aspect of this game. And then there is of course its unique info. Right now it has start of combat, all your crystals get a plus 50% bonus, so obviously you want to be playing some crystals with this, which is the quest that we selected. Now the fun stuff, we have our 8 mana, which is our starting resource, and these are 5 different shops. This one costs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what is unique about this game is every turn you basically get 5 shops ranging from 1 to 5. So you can get the most expensive late game items on turn 1 already. There is no real increase in rarity as the game goes on, and hovering over them also displays some info. So for example, this one is a simple shop. It shows you 3 options of tier 1. Now you will also notice that the tiers or the rarity are always linked to the mana cost. So this is only tier 1 units. Now if you look at the 2 mana shop, this will be offering units from tier 1 and 2. This one will be offering from 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. So the rarity is always up to the mana and 1 below it. So if you want higher tier units, you obviously go to the higher cost shops. They also always have an icon that kind of indicates what you can find. So these are just normal shops. They offer random items. This obviously offers nature units, this offers ancient units, and this offers weapons. They also have a little color in the background. It kind of just indicates how many units you get offered. So if there's a blue spark behind it, it means that you can be offered 3 units. If it's just white, it means you get offered a random unit. And if it's purple like here, you get offered 6 units. You can always only pick 1. But of course, if this is too much information, you can just hover over anything and it will display exactly what it's going to get you. Now, one of the more important things to understand about this game is that you are going to be facing opponents, so you need a weapon. Weapons are very important. You always get a weapon shop as one of your first encounters, and I highly encourage you take it, especially when you're still learning the game. As you get better at the game, maybe you could choose to go for something else, but getting a weapon on your first round is very important. These are 3 different weapons, and as you can see, they all have different tags, different effects, and it might take a little bit of time to see exactly what they do, but I'm just gonna go over this Entombed Terror right now because I think it's the most interesting. Now you can see there's more tags displayed here. Besides just health, it also shows how much damage it deals per attack, and the speed. So 140 damage, speed is 1.6. It will automatically always show the DPS output, which is 87.5 damage per second. Then the projectile speed, this is how fast your bullets are going to travel towards your opponent's island. Don't worry too much about this early on. Then it just displays the size of the unit and the damage type. So most weapons are normal damage, which is what it does. It just subtracts this damage of the health that it targets. But you also have stuff like explosive. So you can see damage type of the rocket is explosive and the type strength is 25%. Explosive weapons deal damage to the units around the target. So if this hits the target, all units around the target will take 25% of the damage. Then you also have pierce damage. These are weapons that damage the unit right behind the target for a percent, so that way you can snipe stuff in the back if people don't position correctly. And you also have stunts right now, which just disables the cooldown of a unit for a set amount of time. Some weapons also have special targeting, so the rocket here defines that it targets the largest enemy unit instead of the closest, but most weapons always just target the closest enemy unit. So Entombed Terror, this weapon has a passive that whenever any units get destroyed, it gains +2 damage, so it kind of scales on itself. Now to buy it, you just drag it from the shop island or from the encounter onto your own island, and there we go. We now have an Entombed Terror and our Crystal Core. Now we only have 3 mana remaining, so it only shows us 3 shops right now. And I'm just gonna go here to the nature shop because here we can find crystals, which we have a crystal core and a quest that works well with crystals, and crystals are nature. Now this is obviously a step further, knowing where to go, what to find on each encounter. I do think we will get a UI soon that is gonna help with that, but right now there is also a library in the game. So this will be your best friend early on as well, where you can see all of the units, you can sort them by their faction and stuff like that. But as you play units, you're gonna unlock them in the library, and you will be able to see all info about them that you want to see. So for example, if you go to the nature on tier 1, we can see we can get offered the crystals here, a tree, a shrub. So I think it would be nice to visit this. It is a random unit though, and we just got a botanist. So I'm also going to highlight botanist real quick. This is, for example, a tier 1 nature town unit, gives a random friendly nature unit +10 health. So whenever the cooldown goes off, the effect triggers. I will take this. We got 2 more nature shops. I'm again going to go for the tier 1 nature, and we just got a tree. Tree has the cool property that when you buy one, you get another one, as you see in the inventory, so you always get 2 of them. When a tree takes damage, it's just gonna heal adjacent nature units, so positioning will now become relevant because you want it next to other nature units. We get another tier 1 nature shop, and it's another tree, so I'm just gonna put them in front. Now before we go into our first fight, I want to quickly point out a few things. You can only get 1 maximum weapon every turn right now. Maybe this changes in the future, but you definitely want to have your weapons in the back because they will take damage last. Weapons always shoot the closest targets, so you want your defense in front, then whatever else you have in the middle to make it survive, and then whatever you want to absolutely live as long as possible in the back, which is usually going to be your weapons. Now town units are very interesting. They are usually very cheap, you can get a lot of them, and they usually like being close together. Town units are one of the main ways to scale your island. You build up your little town, they all have random buff effects that will interact with each other. Then there's of course combo pieces and like more interesting utility units like the crystal core, and trees for example are a defense structure, so I'm gonna put these on the left. Also, when hovering over anything, it will highlight what it can interact with. So at the start when I said don't worry too much about reading all of that stuff and the tags and learning it, the tags will become more obvious as you play more, because you know botanist heals nature units. You hover over it, you see all of the nature units highlight green, so those are all the ones that can be buffed. This also works with adjacency, so a tree, like I said, can only buff adjacent nature units. So for example, I'm going to put the Entombed Terror here. If I drag this tree around, you can see it highlights whichever trees are adjacent to it, whichever ones will get buffed if it takes damage. And that is a cool way to as well see how your positioning impacts your board. And lastly, I'm just dragging stuff around, but this game has a very intuitive movement system. You can drag boxes, which multi-selects units, and then you can drag those units around as well. And if you want to multi-select and remove one of them, you can shift click. You only select these 3 trees. If you want to select just units with shift click, you can also do that. So it kind of works like most like editing software or Photoshop, or it's pretty intuitive, and we're still adding more features every single day. Holding right click also puts stuff in your inventory. Okay, that was enough talking. Let's go into our first opponent. So when you press find opponent, it's gonna find a random opponent that is on the same turn as you and in the same rating bracket. There is matchmaking. So as you can see right here, they have a Sun Altar. Now this art definitely has to be improved. They're playing a Synthetic Leecher and a Leching Spore. I'm not going to go explaining all the units, there's way too many. But you have the freedom to take all the time you want to see what happens. And also hovering, again, is going to be important, because if you hover over a weapon, when I start the fight, you can see which unit it targets. If you hover over it, you can see the trees highlighted red. And if I hover over the Entombed Terror, you can see it highlights the Sun Altar red. So even in combat, you can kind of see where everything is like going, how it's working. Now I pause the combat. We have a very intuitive system here. You can pause, you can speed up, you can slow down, and there is logs as well, where you can see all of your stats, everything going on in the fight. But I'll explain that more in depth in a little bit. But just know that if you are a bit confused at what's going on, feel free to slow down the fight, zoom in, pause, and check what's happening. So we won the fight, we got our first trophy, and we didn't lose any hit points. If you click resummon, you'll be able to see the board that you just faced again, in case you missed something or you want to understand exactly what happened. Now, the next round, this cycle will basically keep repeating itself until either we lost out of hit points or we made it to round 16. So I'm going to be playing through another turn here. This is a production unit that we're going to get. Production units are like value units that give you stuff over time. I got an arborist. This unit every turn is going to give me one of these trees or a shrub. Let's go to a big shop. I would still like some crystals. We found our first crystal. Passive gives adjacent units plus 50 health. So I'm going to put this here, maybe surround all the trees with it, and then all the trees will get plus 50% health. But we also still have the crystal core, which is going to give my crystals another bonus. And because of my quest, when you buy a crystal right now, I get another crystal. So here in the inventory, you got a blue one. This just speeds up adjacent units. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put the town unit next to it. And as you can see, it highlights both of them. It's going to speed up both of them. Now, adjacency, important little fact as well, is that it works on all units around it, including the corners, so this positioning is completely valid. Let's see if I can get another crystal. That would be nice. And we do. Another blue one. I'm just gonna put this one here as well, and another green one. Perfect. And then another random town unit. It's another botanist. It's probably one of the better ones to hit. And let's see if we can win our next fight. We're facing homing missiles, graveyard. Okay, this looks not too strong, so we should be fine. Now I'm going to quickly pause and show you guys what the logs look like and how they work as well. You have the damage dealt, health gained, and activations, which is just the triggers essentially. You can see the Entombed Terror that we have did 1,200 pretty much already, and their homing missiles only 300. Hovering over these as well will highlight whatever unit you're like hovering, so you can see hovering the Entombed Terror will highlight the Entombed Terror. You can even just select friendly or enemy if you just want to like see those units like put together instead of all of them at once, which is maybe more useful in later stages of the game when you have really big trigger logs, or if you want to compare how much health you gain versus your opponent. Now there's a few special events, for example Transmute, that do not appear at the start, but after a couple of rounds will show up from time to time. These are ways to sell units or get mana back. So it costs 1, that's your investment. But then for example, if I don't want the shrub, I can sell it. You can sell at most 3 units and get the mana back in the top left. So it looks like we're finally going to lose to a build that is pretty strong. And as you can see, how the hit points are calculated is the size of the units is basically how much damage you take. So this is a 1/2, meaning we take 2 damage. This is a 2/4, so we take 8 damage. It's just gonna put all of that together. We take 23, we lose 23 hit points. We can only cap out at 50, so you can never like get one shot basically. So you will also be encountering enchantments later on in the game. These are what enchantment encounters look like, and basically there are little bonus effects that you can give to units. An example here is Scorch. This deals plus 20% bonus damage to nature units. I'm gonna take this and put it on my Tesla coil. so Tesla will be dealing more damage to nature units like a bunch of small trees and shrubs. Or we have Accelerate, which on trigger makes the unit trigger faster. I'm gonna put this onto my Entomb Terror, so that way we get some more speed here. We're now at our final round. We also only have 11 health, so this is basically just gonna be the deciding match. We have 10 trophies, and as you can see, that gives us a plus 81 rating difference. Now this is calculated based on your rounds, your wins, and your current rating, which for me is only 648. I'm ranked 301 right now. I kind of fell off, so let's see where we're gonna end up after this. So let me quickly explain what we got going on here at our final round. When you hold spacebar, you'll be able to see as well all of the stats of your island. This is very useful if you're making certain decisions, but it also shows you the grid layout, and any enchantments that you have on your units will be displayed very small on top. As you can see, we got 15 basic units. If you hover over them, it's also going to just highlight all of those basic units. Then we have Thinker, Magic, Ancient, Novus, and 57 nature units. Let's dive a little bit deeper. So for offense, I only have 2 weapons this game. I got a Tesla Coil and a Entomb Terror, but the core of my gameplay strategy has been these crystals. I've been trying to get as many as possible to buff up my units in the back here, because I also started with a quest that supports it, and here are our crystal cores. So these guys, as I said before, will basically just sort of combat increase how good our crystals are. And then we have superchargers. This is a fun little unit that re-triggers start of combat effects. So you can see a little bit of a combo going on here, where these buff my crystals, then my superchargers go off and rebuff the crystals again. There's a bunch of other small synergies going on here that I'm not gonna over explain, but our main core is also this town build. So we have 2 town halls here. A town hall is a unit that whenever any other adjacent town unit triggers, it's gonna give a weapon +1 damage and a defense unit +2 health. So they're a really good way to just scale damage and health on my board, while just having a bunch of random town units around that by themselves scale the board. So Jeffrey, for example, here in the left is a unit that also buffs a defense unit +3 health for each adjacent town unit. So this also likes to be surrounded by town units and is gonna buff more health on the board. The Micro Librarian is just gonna buff a friendly unit of every faction +2 health. You have the Lumberjack. This gives a weapon plus damage for each unique friendly nature unit. And the last one I'm gonna explain here is the Post Office, which just gives a friendly unit a random enchantment, so that way I get some enchantments on the board as well. Finally, I'm just gonna show what the hell this defense is at the front. I just have a bunch of units that kind of just wanna stall the opponent while I'm scaling. The bamboo, when destroyed, summons more smaller bamboos, so it's hard to get through. We have all of our health crystals here in front. Then these, they definitely need better art soon, but they basically summon a bunch of trees when they spawn in and when they destroy. So I'm basically going to start the combat with a bunch of extra trees randomly on the island. Here's a wall. This just takes less damage. And here's a pain inverter. This is a unit that is conditional and only shows up when you have 70 or less hit points. So when you're behind in the game, you can start getting units like this to help you kind of come back into it. A few other smaller synergies are, for example, the Obelisk. This destroys these units and is going to throw them at the opponent to deal more damage. You have an altar here. This just resummons units that die that are adjacent to it. So when these proliferators die, they will resummon, so their effect will trigger again. It will summon more trees. It's a neat little effect. And here, for example, is a graveyard that also resummons friendly destroyed units. Alright, now let's see it in action. Let's see who our final opponent is going to be. So they have a very cool thing going on here with a black hole. This unit also destroys everything around it and then resummons it. So it leads to some cool synergies here with like mines. You destroy and resummon different sort of mines. Also the proliferators that I talked about. And they have little toy turrets everywhere together with toy production units and some more other complex synergies with a materia contrarium. But I feel like me explaining more and more units is just going to get more complicated. I'm just going to start the fight, slow it down, and we're going to see kind of how it unwinds. So as you see, a bunch of things are destroying and happening. What happened is all of my crystals also got destroyed, as you can see. They're mostly gone. Some of them are still there if they got buffed enough. But that is because of the mines. There's a mine that deals a little bit of damage to the entire board. The crystals don't have a lot of health, so they just all died if they did not get buffed up. Luckily, the health crystals buff each other up, so they're fine. But I basically lost a bunch of damage and a bunch of speed on my weapons in the back. Then what else is gonna be happening is he has a lot of very small units dealing a lot of damage, a lot of health scaling, but I'm hoping that my town is gonna be able to pull through and scale up and keep me alive. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit because it will be very hard to understand anyway what's going on with all of the coolers triggering here. But you can see my defense is holding out pretty well. I'm throwing little trees. They're still throwing stuff. Both of our obelisks are now completely used up. And we are resummoning a lot. They also have a Thanatos and a graveyard. So both of our boards are resummoning small little units from time to time. It looks like my weapons are pulling through though. If you look at the logs, I'm clearly doing way more damage than they are. Even my healing is just so much more. So it looks like we are able to scale a lot better than they were able to. This is also, if the fight goes way too long, the fatigue wizard is going to appear and he's going to help deal more damage to close out the fight quickly. So that way fights are not going to last forever. And we are able to get our 11 wins and our 16 rounds. So once again, if you play ranked, we're going to get our victory screen here, which is going to show us how much rating we gained. We gained over 100. If you survive all 16 rounds, you get a little bonus. And that is it. If you visit the library, you can also revisit your builds. So I'm going to go to the current patch. It shows up on top, so that is a little bug that I need to fix. But as you can see here, this is the build that we just played. We can go through all of the single rounds, see how it evolved over time. Now, I highly encourage that you try the different game modes that we have to learn a bit about the game. I'm going to add a bunch of extra tutorials here soon if you still have trouble understanding certain mechanics or factions. A bunch of other solo content as well. So I'm going to keep it with all of this condensed info. I hope you now understand how to play SkyShard, a little bit of what the mechanics are, what you're aiming towards. And if you still have more questions, leave them in the comments and I'll be making more content about this game anyway. So thank you for watching and enjoy the game.